welcome to another edition of Elevating with Marcia and Mike. I'm your host, Marcia Hawkins, along with Mike Athist. And today we're going to be talking, we're going to talk about a lot of things related to business, but we're also going to talk about a few things related to life. Before we got on air, Mike, we were talking about, a myriad of things, but it prompted for what I really wanted to talk about on today's podcast, which is kind of like the psychology of people and how they're navigating life right now as it pertains to like social media, the stock market, the tariffs, the economy, just all of that. So welcome aboard.
Hey, Marcia, I think this is going to be an interesting topic because I feel like the world has so many different spinning plates and stuff going on right now that there's plenty to talk about between politics and sport. I mean, don't get me going on hockey right now. I can sit there and talk about Brad Marchand and the Panthers for ages. But yeah, I mean, I think we have a lot to talk about today. So.
Yeah, I'm looking at social, let's just do a quick blurb on social media. I'm really beginning to think, and whether Mark Zuckerberg, well, who was it? Tom that did MySpace. Poor Tom didn't have the success that Zuckerberg had. But I did he recognize what he was creating when he created it? I half wonder if he knew it was going to go the way that it did, and just how big social media would become, or if he tripped on it. And my guess is he tripped on it because originally it was just to share information regarding Harvard and their classes and stay connected that way. And it's a
Well,
great idea,
it was
but
the hot or not. I mean, it was the yearbook. It was going through the incoming freshmen on who's coming in, and I think that was the foundation of it. But oh my goodness, has it blown up to something way bigger?
yeah, and there's so many good pieces of social media. I mean, I found people that I had lost touch with. I learned things about people that I probably wouldn't have known otherwise. And on a sad note, people who have passed away that I wouldn't have known, people who are sick and maybe need help. It's a great resource for businesses, but I think anytime you inject ego into anything, it's doomed to fail. And I really feel, I watch some of the things people post, and I've always had a rule: if I wasn't willing to put it on USA Today, LA Times, New York Times, Boston Globe, if I wasn't willing for that information to be front and center on the front page of those, I don't put it on.
Yeah.
And yet I see people. I have to be honest, completely blown away with what people are comfortable putting on Facebook. And I'm not sure I'm not sure that we've gone. I feel like we've gone past the point of return on it, and I don't know how you get that much toothpaste back in the tube.
I would agree with you. I think it's changed. I mean, so much from when I first got it. It was, I don't know, probably 2005, 2006 when it first came out. Like Facebook, when Facebook first came out, I was one of the first ones to get it because at the time I had an educational email address and I could jump on there. And then you kind of ride this wave of like, do you remember Instant Messenger where you'd put on like you put on your away message and be like, I'm going to the bathroom or I'm going to grab something to eat. And so people were constantly like understanding and knowing where you were and what you were doing. And then it was
Well, how
updating
about
your
how
stat.
about Facebook tracking you? I mean, like
Yeah.
someone was telling me, I have mine shut off, but someone was telling me, oh, my buddy's in CVS right now. I'm in the parking lot. I'm going to go in and say hi to him. I'm like, I mean, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, it's just it's been kind of this long road of put everything out there on the internet, and then all of a sudden, the last several years I've really backed down from any posting and anything, and it got down to like I'd post once a quarter, and now I won't even do that. I mean, it's just not worth it. The last time I posted was I believe it was the hurricanes, just letting everyone know that I was okay, which
Yeah.
and that was a crazy one too. So we got hit with all these hurricanes here in Sarasota. Siesta Key got hit with the hurricane, and I made a post and I said, "This is what's going on, and we're okay, we're safe." And people that I hadn't talked to in years and years and years were reaching out, and I love that community aspect of it. but I don't think that my love of that community aspect of it is enough to want to let people in on what's going on in my day-to-day life. And I just my comfort is not there with it whatsoever, because it's a
No,
megaphone for stupidity, and
right.
it
And
keeps
how it
getting
kind of
worse.
relates to business, though, I think it's great. But I look at a lot of people's business page, guilty myself, of not keeping current and relevant content out there, and that's a huge mistake for business owners. I know for me, if I'm going to pre-qualify a restaurant or a business, I go right to Facebook or Instagram to
Yeah.
pre-qualify them. Not to
Yep.
mention the fact that a lot of people buy stuff off Facebook and Instagram, but like everything, Google ads, all of the above, it's good till it's not good. And unfortunately, I think the internet has created a 30-second life cycle for things sometimes, where it might work today, but this afternoon it may not work again. So it's really, in my opinion, very difficult for the modern business owner. Things are so different. You have people that are earning a living off being an influencer, making tens of thousands of dollars a month on the internet. So I understand it, but I don't know. I just don't know if it's a good thing anymore. I really don't. I worry we've gone down a path, honestly, that we're not going to be able to backtrack and detour down to a more viable business climate. I'm very, very, very worried about that.
Well, it's funny you mentioned like the business postings, I think a big thing is, how do you keep your business relevant in the world? And you have to do it with social media these days. Like, if you're not on social, I think it hurts you. But I also don't think that you need to have viral content going out every 30 seconds. I think that you could just have posts, and you can look at maybe my Blue Wave Financial social media pages. I have stuff that goes out maybe once every other week, and sure, I should do it a little bit more, but it doesn't matter if it's me and my best buddy liking it. It just shows that you're still there. You're still relevant, and I think that a lot of consumers are just looking for, is this something like, is this a business that's still active, and so they want to see that. But I don't think it needs to be a million clicks or views or anything like that on those pages at all. So it just needs to be
Yeah.
something content. So,
Yeah, I agree with that. But I was thinking about it while you were talking, how everything I've done in the last, say, 60 to 90 days, I've done off a referral. I went down to Rhode Island to visit a friend, and she had recommended a restaurant that we go to, and we went there. And I immediately went to Facebook and looked at it. You pre-qualify it, what's on the menu. I mean, all of that is just. I'm really realizing, 20 years ago, I read a book called The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur, somewhere around 20
yep.
years ago, maybe 10. And one of the things he talks about is the power of referral. And I'm really beginning to think that that really is still extremely relevant. But from a marketing standpoint, I can't go in and sell you a referral business. I can go in and sell you, a website. I can sell you an app. I can sell you marketing. But at the end of the day, it really comes up. It comes down to whether or not the business is a really good business. And I think
Yeah.
that in summary of everything that we're talking about, it's super important that if you're a restaurant, your food's got to be good, your service has got to be good, your environment's got to be good, your prices have to be good. You've got to give people a reason to refer you. And I think if people can psychologically get back into that mindset of forget the internet, like that should just be a win-win. But you want people leaving your business and telling other people about it. And until you master that, all the marketing you're going to do is not going to matter if people show up and they never come back. So I guess that's my takeaway. Use it to your advantage, but I really have a completely different take on social media than I did even 6 months ago. I think it really needs to come back to you as a business owner, whether you're a restaurant, insurance agent, doctor, lawyer, whatever it is. I refer people that offer me a good product or a good service, and they're a good business. Like that's what I do. I will refer people till the cows come home. So I just, I guess the moral of what I'd like to impress upon our listeners is to just get back to the basics again. When people come into that business or they buy your product, it's got to be good. It just has to be good.
Yeah, well, I think you're spot on with that, Marcia, having a business that is just mediocre and okay won't cut it.
Yeah,
It just won't, because
yeah,
speaking to your point, you want to have someone leave a restaurant, leave a business, leave whatever, and be like, "Hey, I just had the best experience here. I just had the best experience buying this car, or buying whatever it was." That's how you're gonna get that consumer base up. It's not gonna be through, oh, I just made this post. I just
yeah.
don't see it
No,
being that way.
it's true. And to take it one step further, when somebody has a good experience and they go to Facebook and say, "Oh my God, I just went to a restaurant and it was so good, and this is what they take," that's positive. You cannot you cannot pay any amount of money for the good that that post will do, and that's what I think business owners should focus on. Likewise, one of the hardest things about owning a business is hiring good help. So you got to be able to offer them really good benefits. Like, you and I talk all the time about some of the products that we offer to
Yeah.
business owners that can help them, not only get people in the door, but and that's one of the first things I teach is like, hey, let's take a walk through your restaurant. Like, what is preventing people from coming back? Why do you have all these bad reviews? Like, start at the problem, not the solution. And I think that is so important. But having good help and offering good benefits and treating your help really well is also key. Something else I want to talk about, Mike, today is, just how the overall environment is right now for the business world. And we've got a new president in, and I'm not here to debate conservatism versus liberalism. I'm not here to debate that. But what I am here to debate is, it's really interesting to listen to people when they talk about, like when we had a dip in the stock market, there was a couple of days, a couple
Yeah.
months ago that we had a couple of corrections. I don't know, I don't want to call them corrections, but we had a couple of dips. And what was interesting to me, and I know people said this to you, or you heard about it, or you read about it, is, oh my God, I am so worried about my retirement. I don't even want to go look. Some people were just frantic about it. And what's interesting about that is I never heard somebody when we had a really good day, a really high day, someone get on to Facebook and say, "Oh my God, I'm rich. I can't believe it. My 401k, I'm going to be able to retire early." No, it's amazing to me how the media can get people thinking doomsday when they need them to think doomsday, and how many people bought into that. But nobody called me back 4 days later and said, because I kept saying, honestly, if you invested into something on a 1 day gain or loss, I think you miss the whole idea of it. So I mean,
Yeah.
I try to come at things from an educational standpoint, and I remember thinking people were like, "Well, I'm worried. I don't think I should do this, or I'm not gonna do that, or like, oh my God, like we're in scary times." Off 1 day, okay, well that's like saying I'm gonna retire on one good day. I mean, or a couple of good days in the market. Does that boggle your mind like it does mine?
It does, but I living in the political environment that we've lived in for however many years, with the media being, um, maybe not telling the full truth. I'm just going to put it there.
Mhm.
I think that there's a lot of people that will ride the emotion of, well, this news outlet said this, or this news outlet said that, or this person said this, and so it takes them on this high and low of, oh my gosh, this is the end of the world, and this is going to impact me. And using your stock market example, when the markets were down because of, most recently, it was the introduction of all these tariffs. Um, if you're not looking at the stock market as a long-term play, you shouldn't be in it. I mean, it just shouldn't even be a vessel for you to invest in. or an investment vehicle for you. But I think that it's so easy to jump on the media bandwagon of, oh, this is so bad or this is so good. But the problem is it gets exhausting to follow it step by step. I mean, if you sit there and you track the day-to-day the latest and greatest news headlines, and you live and die by looking at your phone and what's popping up on your CNN app or your Fox News app or MSNBC app, it'll drive you absolutely crazy. And so I think a large part of at least for me being able to go ahead and have success is being able to turn off the noise and put on those headphones that noise canceling headphones, let me put it that way. um and just block that out and keep going. And that's where I think that, yes, you can go high, you can go low with what's going on, but if you just stay steady Eddie and keep the main thing, keep working on your business, keep working on the things that matter to you, it's not such a big deal. That's my thought with it. uh,
Right. But the lion's share of people can't do that because
True.
anything coming out through the media that confirms how they feel politically. And so a down day, it's like, oh, I knew it. I never should have voted for this guy, or
Yeah.
Kamala would have been much better for us. All right, I mean, you can debate this all day long, but at the same token, they're not running in going, thank God Trump's in. We've had I mean, I look at my stuff, but not for the reasons that most people do. I look at it much differently. I look at it because if there's a down day, I have to make a decision if I'm going to go in and get more. That's what I do. But a
Yeah.
401k for someone who's maybe over 55, who would again, oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm close to retirement. This is awful. Well, first of all, again, if you're going to come in and justify a down day politically, then you could make the case you need to come in and justify it on an up day. So to me, it's like when people say things to me, I'm like, yeah, yeah, okay, I hear what you're saying, but that's not my thought process. So, anyways, pass the butter.
Yeah.
I just don't get into it. I just don't get into it. But the
Sure.
lion's share of people will use that information based off the media to further a belief that they have, rather than really looking at the raw data, which is okay. Again, if you're gonna cry on a bad day, are you gonna yell "I'm rich" on a good day? Probably not. Probably not.
No, no, I don't think you will, but I also, I mean, kind of a shameless plug here. A lot of like, we work in the insurance space for a lot of our businesses, and there are great products that if you're truly worried about this loss that you could have in the market, if you are that 55 or 60-year old or 70, whatever, in your later working years, if you are that person and you're worried about retirement, we have products that can remove that downside risk too. Shameless plug there, I guess. But I mean, definitely go to bluewavefinancial.com and check it out. Or I know, Marcia, you work with these products as well. It doesn't necessarily need to be the doom and gloom that is portrayed on the news
It's
outlets.
by design, Mike. Let's
Yeah.
face it. It's by design. They want everybody freaking out over their 401k, but or any of their investments. But it bothers me that people don't, 5 days later, when there's an upside to the market, that they're not in there going, "Oh my God, I'm rich again."
Yeah.
It's just it. I get frustrated because again, like, what are people thinking? How have we lost our ability to problem solve? Why have we lost our ability to think? And again, I think it's just this just saturation, this marination of all of this news, and I say that in quotations, all this news information that is really, let's call it what it is, propaganda to get you to think a certain way. And I would, regardless of what side you're on, people start thinking for yourself. Just because Rachel Maddow or anybody says something to you. I said this to somebody one day. They said, "Oh, well, Rachel Maddow said this to me." I heard this from Rachel Maddow. And in my mind, I'm thinking, my response to him was, Well, how do you know what she's telling you is the truth?
Yeah.
And I remember him leaning back in his chair and going, I don't want to talk about this. And I just remember laughing
Yep.
about it. But yeah, I mean, it's really, really quite interesting, just how social media, the media, the internet, just everything is just an absolute 24/7 drip of information. And I'm really concerned, for the lack of a better word, that we've lost our ability to think for ourselves and go, okay, you have some information, but maybe you ought to verify that before you take it as gospel. Verify it and apply it to your life. How is this really going to affect me long term? But at the end of the day, I would beg to ask 100,000, 10,000 people that with any administration at the end of their term, how deeply did it end up affecting your life? Like, honestly, honestly, how deeply
Sure.
did it affect your life? And I would say, I know for me, I know certain presidents life was good, and I know under certain presidents life was not so good, but at the
Yeah.
end of the day, I'm still here. I'm
Yeah.
still
Is it going to be okay at the end of the day? I think is the
exactly,
overwhelming or
exactly.
overarching theme there. Yeah.
Yeah, and the only thing I will say, with the exception, would be the years we went through COVID, that were absolutely horrible. I still think we have lingering effects from that.
Tons. Yeah.
Financial, emotional, physical. I think there's just a host of issues that it's going to take a long, long time for us to recover. But in summary, the one thing that I really want to drive home is, this is something that my parents kind of instilled in me, and I think this is what I think, if people could adopt this way of thinking, it would help them. So what I try to do is think about my 4x4, and just envision this for just a second. So think about your family and your where you live, your home, your family, and it being a 4x4, if you will. Okay.
Okay.
If we all put the energy into raising our families, working our jobs, building our relationships with our children, our spouses, our family, and we all put blinders on for everything else. Not that you I'm not asking people to not be aware, but I'm asking people to just focus on that first.
Yeah.
First, prioritize that. Imagine if everybody did that, what the world would look like.
Yeah. Very different deal if you're worried about,
Exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
family
And then
first.
everything else, then love thy neighbor and help thy neighbor, and help. It takes a village. It takes a community. Like, that's all good, but if the 4x4 is not good, it's like a raging cavity in your mouth. It's gonna wreak havoc. You just have to focus on that. And I, again, to be a successful business owner, or a successful parent, or a whatever, you really need it's an inside job. If you can really focus on yourself first, and not in an egotistical way, but in a way that is going to, at the end of the day, produce a result closer to what your goals are, I think the rest of it falls into place. I really, really believe that. And yet, I don't see people doing that. And I worry that the political climate and the social media climate and the media climate is not supportive of that. And I think that is one of the reasons why we will struggle for decades to come, if we're not able to start really realizing, like, I'm not digesting what you're forcing me to eat. I'm not having it. So that's just kind of how I feel. And I feel like businesses, business owners, as a whole, would fare better if they could kind of tune things out, and again, focus on their business, focus on their employees, focus on their products, their services, but yet it's very hard to do when you're being dripped. Well, with this administration, you're not going to make it. Like this is, the fear mongering, if you will.
Yeah. Take care of you first. It's like when you're on the airplane, put your mask on first, and then help
Yeah,
others. That
absolutely,
same thing.
absolutely. Yeah, and
Yeah.
and it's we talk about this all the time. It's just there's a lot to navigate owning a business, but um, boy, we're really good at complicating things. We really are. We have mastered that. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, just like the other day, I had a situation where this business owner could not have complicated his life anymore. And being in the insurance industry, Mike, we all say the same thing. You do not want to find out that you do not have the appropriate coverages when it comes to a claim. And you can recommend and show people the way all the time, but a lot of times it's not until disaster strikes that they all of a sudden realize, oh crap, she was right about that, or he was right about that. So yeah, and again, it's not, when you think of people who sell insurance, I know we kind of have a bad rap, but for me, like I was explaining life insurance to someone yesterday and talking about, the IUL and how you can use it to be your own bank and you can use it for disability benefits. And there's so many, it's not just a death benefit, it's so much more. And I remember I sold life insurance for years and never understood the value the way I do now in an IUL and how you can structure it and how it's almost fun for me to talk to people about it because I feel like I'm again educating them. I'm not trying to sell them something. Much like with our employee benefits program that we have, it's such a great product, and yet sometimes business owners are just so entrenched in trying to run their business, they don't have time to listen to us. But boy, if they gave us 20 minutes of their time and could listen to it, the benefits are just amazing.
Great things happen. Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so I mean, I just feel like if we could all maybe put our pulse on the political, environmental, media climate that we're in right now, social media, and really start to kind of flip it and work it to our advantage. Get that "what's in it for me" kind of attitude, and really think about that. Some of the stuff that appears to be negative. The example I gave you, I watch the stock market. If it's going down, I may want to run in and buy more. I'm not
Yeah.
sitting there thinking I'm going to roll over and be pushing a shopping cart somewhere because I'm homeless. I don't think like that. I think I'm going to use this to my advantage. Much like when you have an up day, you want to use that to your advantage. So it's really just changing your mindset and really being open to new information. Apply it to how you live your life, apply it to how you run your business, apply it to how you raise your kids, how you interact with people. And I promise without a doubt, life will infinitely become better.
I love it.
Awesome. All right. Well, we're going to do another podcast. We're get back on schedule. We were on hiatus, my fault, for a couple of weeks, but we'll get back in and we'll have another informational podcast for you coming up in another week. Thanks for joining. I'm Marcia Hawkins along with Mike Athos. You've been listening to Elevating with Marcia and Mike.